Right. Aloha, everyone. This is Leimomi Keliikuli, and I'm here with my Leimomi TV interview series. And we're here with Christine Hansen, who's an amazing sleep, amazing book coach also. She has done amazing work in holistic healing and sharing very amazing self-care and sleep techniques that really help anybody in their life and their business. So why don't we start with, again, like who you are, introduce yourself, a little background about what you do, and anything that you want to share with us first.
Yes, so my name is Christine Hansen, and title-wise, I'm a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner and a certified sleep science coach. And I call myself a holistic health practitioner, mainly with a focus on sleep, amongst other things. Lots of things have changed in the last 2.5 years. I really completely turned my life upside down, going from steady, nicely paid, secure job to becoming an entrepreneur in the health industry, no less, which is pretty unheard of or not that regular here in Europe, at least. Everything is pretty regulated. And so that's a completely new field. And it's taken me lots of trial and error to actually figure out what I want to do. I now have my third company within 3 years because I just needed to shift, and find the kind of mold that was perfect for me or that I fit into. And I kind of grew into what I'm doing now. And this journey has been, it's had its ups and downs. And realizing what alignment is, what mindset is, all of those things, I had never heard of them before, have changed dramatically who I am, how I work, how I don't work a lot of the time. And it's helped me to really get a different perspective when working with people, being able to share a different message, being open in a different way. And I really combine that with science. And that's what I like about other people. So I'm striving to do the same for me and for my services.
Mm-hmm. So from your perspective of your genius, it sounds like you take a very holistic approach on, sleep, nutrition, making sure that someone really can solve those deeper problems. Like, why is it important to know such things, like to know, these things in order to create a life of success?
I think depending on how you grew up, at least in my Western upbringing, you are very often scattered. You are a specialist on certain things. There are different expertises and different geniuses in different zones. And there's a lot of competition. I mean, that's how we grow up, you're trained for it. Very often our school systems are designed that way, competing, having prizes and different things. And so you start to have that idea that everything is compartmentalized and that you kind of need to know one thing. And when in fact, and that's not the way it is at all, everything is connected. And especially when you go into health, things are changing quite a bit. We're going from mind and body being a little bit separated in our traditional Western medicine model, which is only 150 years old, more or less, from having, psychiatry, psychology, and then general medicine, which is the most holistic that we know of, and then all the specialties. We're going back to, look, we have to combine all of those things, because if you really want to be in your zone of genius, whether it is for health reasons or whether it is for creative reasons or whether it is for business reasons, you need to understand that you need to look at all of those different factors. And when I talk about sleep, for example, the way that people start to understand is I work with a lot of people who are very conscious of their health, for example. So they are already having a good nutrition. They're very aware of exercise. They're often very good at meditating. But sometimes that's not enough, and that's when I'm saying, look, let's look at the biochemical side, because if you have a pathogen, you might be an amazing meditation yogi, having blank space mind. But if you have a little parasite that's starting to party in the middle of the night, that's not going to help. And very often people then start to understand, okay, I have done everything right, but there's just some things that I don't know, or that I didn't know could also influence sleep, for example, or anything in your body for that matter. And it's now getting to know these connections, having more and more people shedding light on different connections, like mind and the gut, neurological and intestinal connections, which also have to do with the way that we think. I think that is coming out more and more. And if you want to be in your zone of genius, and if you really want to give yourself, your mind, your body it all, you have to look at all of those different pieces. And it's fascinating to me because I learn something new every day. Yesterday, I learned about the Ananda molecule, which is the bliss molecule, for example. So that has been discovered whenever you have a moment of bliss. And so there's so many different things that you can learn, but everything is, again, connected. And so I think for your zone of genius, whatever it is, whether it is health or creative or business related, you still need to look at all of those different factors. So the mindset work is just as important as the body work, for example. Does that make sense?
Yes, totally. I love your whole explanation about that. So when you were growing up, as a child, what lit you up? Like, how does that really play, into what you're doing today, like that you've become today?
So for me, it's a little bit special because I was adopted when I was 4 months old. So I came from Colombia as a baby, really, like an infant. Or not quite an infant anymore, a baby, let's say a baby. And so I don't know, I don't really know. I think that you can also be not adopted and have the same experiences that I had. But basically the way I grew up was in a pretty traditional setting, open-minded, but to an extent. So, not trying to be, there's always a difference between old-fashioned and traditional. So trying to have traditions, but not being old-fashioned. But it was very clear that, my parents wanted the best for me, which would traditionally is a solid education, going to university and getting a secure job, which is what I did. I did my school, went to a good university, did my bachelor's, my master's, came back to Luxembourg, got a government job. And theoretically, I'd be settled till I'm 60, 65, and then get a retirement, which is still amazing. So that's basically the way that I did things. Even though I was always a little bit more impulsive, a little bit more creative, I always did things that others didn't necessarily do, but I always came back to the secure zone, which is fine, which is totally fine. But at university, I already started to take different routes than what I had planned to do after university, but different things happened and I came back. And when I decided to really go off track and kind of stop with this secure thing, I think it was very hard for my parents, very, very hard, because for them, basically, and I understand, I have a daughter, and for them, it was like, okay, thank God, we've done it all. She's secure, she's married, she has a child, she has this job. We can finally just enjoy our retirement. We've done a good job as parents. That's it. And then suddenly I go and I throw away all of that security for something that I want to do, which was very hard for them. But as I started to kind of build a reputation and gather experience, winning awards and so forth, being published in The Guardian, things that they would never have thought possible, now they're starting to see that that I can do it. It's hard, and I think it broke their heart as well because it was so hard. And I actually know that someone talked to my dad, how is your daughter? He was like, it's so hard for her. And it is a lot of work, but I was never so happy. And I think they finally seen that. And I think other parents would probably not have had that shift as quickly maybe, but yeah, it's different for them, but they do their best.
Yeah, it's really hard to make that transition to entrepreneurship and to really trust you're just being guided, you're done with that transition right? Of just having that 9-to-5 job, but really like going into what you really want. And I hear lots of stories about that, like how difficult the transition is. But at the same time, it's so liberating because you get so much clarity about like all the different things that like you would never do in your life. Like you have to start to do it.
Absolutely. And I think especially if you're in a service-based business, but you learn very quickly. And I think I was very lucky in that sense that I stumbled upon Skillshare, where my first class was by Seth Godin, who's a marketing and branding guru. And I understood very quickly that the messaging has to be you, you have to be your brand if you have a service. If it's a product, it's different. If it's a service, it's you. And, you have all the branding gurus saying the same thing, it's your niche, you need to make yourself unique. People need to know who you are. And that takes work because before, nobody really cared, as long as you did your job, things were fine and you would just live and be without really thinking that much about who you are. Things would just work and people would either like you or they wouldn't, but who cares, I'm not saying that when you're in a business that people need to like you, but you're actually starting to think about what makes me me and what about this, the good and the bad, can help other people. So, for example, I'm not a perfectionist, like at all. And, for some people that is something very negative. For me, yeah, it's negative in a way, but on the other hand, I can relate to so many people who are not perfectionists either. So I think it's figuring all of that out, who you actually are, what you like, what you don't like, what your thoughts are, or what you've been trained to think, and then kind of being okay with you having a different opinion from something that's been indoctrinated consciously or unconsciously by those who raised you or who you grew up with. That's a journey that's a tough one, and it takes years, and I think it shifts because we shift. But once you do that work, and I think for me it took like at least 1.5 years till I actually had any idea who I was, and it's still shifting. Like if I compare last year and this year, it is already shifting, but I really feel that I'm starting to really settle into what I like to do, and it's a lot quieter than it was a while ago. So, but it's different for everyone, and I think you're going through different stages. But being ready to do that work, which can be hugely uncomfortable, is really paying off big time because you're actually living your life. Like I really consider this living my life with my eyes and my heart open, and it's much more intense than it ever was before. But it's much more worth it. And thinking that we only have this existence here once in this way, depending on if you think that in reincarnation and so forth, but never mind. For me, I'm here right now. I want to live this fully.
Yes, I love how you explained that whole process, because what people don't realize is the first like 1 to 3 years, and whenever you're running your business, your brand like changes like 20 times, And
especially, I think especially, we are in an online business world, and I'm actually paddling back a little bit from that, because the online world is very busy. It's started to really grow incredibly in the last 3-4 years, 2 years, or even 1 year ago. And it can be overwhelming. And at first you want to do this and you want to do that. And it all makes sense. And it all does make sense. But even if it makes sense, it's not necessarily you. And actually having the courage to say, no, this isn't me, instead of listening to the messages, which might be, you need to stretch your comfort zone, which is totally fine, but to some extent, versus this is not in alignment with me. This is completely against everything that I want to do. It's just not, it doesn't sit right. That takes courage. It takes wisdom, I feel, and it takes trial and error, because sometimes the shoe fits right, it feels right, and then it's just like when you go shoe shopping, after you walk around with it for 20 minutes, you suddenly start to feel, no, it looked amazing, but
yeah.
are killing me right now. And that happens a lot of the time, I feel, the first couple of years, and then you start to know, yeah, no, this feels right now, but I know that once I have to wear this for a wedding or something, it's going to be a nightmare. So you start to get to know your shoes better.
Yeah, I love that analogy. Totally. I mean, I think that's how like you learn about your misalignments. You know,
Yeah.
over time, you're like, okay, this doesn't fit. And you're like, I don't like that color anymore, right? I don't like it how it's, spiky, or, I want it to be flat, or, these
Yes,
choices. These are
exactly.
that we need to make.
Exactly.
And
Yeah. Sometimes you
finally
feel
say,
fancy. Sometimes you feel completely natural, and I think that's what your branding is going to be like. My headshot, like if you look at my headshots, my hair is very straight. It's very sleek. It's all very business-like. My new headshots, I'm going to take them in 2 weeks. They're going to be with my hair natural curly. They're going to be very soft, very different, but very me at this point. But then again, I had an idea what I wanted my business to look like. And now I think I shifted into, I don't have an idea. I know who I am and my business is going to look the way that I actually am.
mm-hmm.
But it took me a lot of work to actually publicly show this, because it's much easier to build something nice and shiny, which looks great, than to build something that's actually you, which also looks great, hopefully, but it's different.
Yeah. So I know like you went through a lot of misalignments yourself, and when you were in that misalignments, like what were kind of like these steps that help you to get back into alignment? Like what would you say are like your three, must to do steps that really got you into what you are today? 'Cause
Mhm.
I know you're saying like you went from like this businessy type to now like how can I be more natural, more myself, and just show up myself? I mean, I'm sure you went through a lot of like self-doubt and worry and fatigue and like, oh my God, I don't want to do this
Yeah.
anymore. What made you go through that next shift?
A lot of the time sleeping. Like seriously, I always feel when I'm in misalignment because I suddenly start to get really tired with everything. Like I don't feel the energy anymore. I feel tired, like really tired. And then I really allow myself to take time off, like to sleep, take naps, take 2 days where I have afternoons where I just don't do anything or not a lot, just the bare minimum. That helps a lot. And then taking a walk and just, listening to what I want to do, radically not doing what I don't want to do. And that's been a hard one, but it's the number one thing that I really suggest to anyone. If you have a thing on your to-do list that you really don't want to do, and unless you get into trouble legally because it's your tax report or tax returns or anything like that,
Yeah.
don't do it. Like, and sometimes it seems something big, for me. And I just talked to you before our interview. I had my podcast. Right now, I really don't want to do it. I don't want to. And I do know that in marketing, it says consistency, consistency, consistency. I don't want to. I would hate it if I had to do it now. And it's too good in order to be misused in that way, to do it half-heartedly. So having that, you open up a space that something else is going to fall into that is going to be exactly the right fit at that time. But you need to open that space. And so very often now I'm also postponing things. Very often I'm saying no to things. Sometimes I even accepted things and now I'm saying, sorry, I can't do them after all. And before, it would be, I would never let anyone down. But now, depending on how much I can do, I just say no. And this has helped me so much because whenever I did that, something else opened up that would propel me forward. Not necessarily always financially. I do a lot of things personally, and it comes back in terms of relationships, connections, new alloys that make me happier. So I think that's number one: sleeping, saying no, looking at what makes me cringe, what makes me unhappy, what makes me really exhausted, just looking at it on my to-do list and scrapping it. Like literally just go away and don't hide behind wrong how should I say, responsibility. I have to do that, da, 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 da. You don't. You know, you don't. You always have a choice. You don't have to do this. The only thing you have to do is breathe. That's it. And sometimes I think that has helped me a lot. That has helped me. It's something I would never have done previously, like having that sense of obligation. But now just taking that and just saying, nope, I don't feel like it. Not answering a text message straight away has been a huge step for me. Not answering my messengers straight away has been huge. And you know what? Nothing terrible has ever happened. So that's a one thing. But my personality type is more by eliminating, you know, so that's what's working for me.
Yes. Yeah. And I think when you're in that stage, you're like, I just want to give up. I don't want to do anything. Like sometimes you just breathe, right? Like just don't do anything. Like that's the best thing you could do. And we usually think like it's got to work harder, you know, I got to like figure that thing out more. But really it's about just like taking a step back and say, you know, being like honoring yourself. This is the way I feel. I don't want to do that, you know.
Exactly.
I want to do something of this instead, and just honoring that.
Exactly. And
you have to
sometimes
practice that.
Exactly. And sometimes it's not even, when you're working, it's not work in the traditional sense. You know, like for example, when my mother would call, I would tell her I'm so busy. Oh, good. So you're going to have a new client. You're going to get a new income. And I was like, no, it's all on a voluntary basis. Or no, it's all marketing. Those are things that you start to shift, you know, that you actually understand. I actually worked this morning, or right now it's 9 p.m. Very often I do work until 10 p.m. very often because, you know, I have clients in the US and with time differences and so forth. And for a long time that I just took that for granted. But now I actually realize, no, hang on, those 2 to 3 hours that I do, like from 7 to 10, I'm going to catch up with those the next day and take the morning off because, you know, and for a long time I didn't do that because I didn't even think that way. So I think sometimes we also need to look at everything that we do that we might have fun with, or that might not seem with like work, but actually understand that it is, because otherwise you're just going to burn yourself out. Like it is very real, even if it's fun. I think that's something that's super important to know and to be okay with.
Mm-hmm. So how do you define success? You know, like what kind of pain do you have to endure
Money.
right now? Like what that really, really has changed for you?
Some of it has changed, some of it hasn't. For me, success is still money. I love money. So that's definitely success. What is money for me is freedom to get pretty things that make me happy. So, and it took me a long time to be honest with that, but I do love Gucci bags, and I do love going to the hairdresser for 5 hours, and I love having facials and going for a spa weekend with my husband and getting all the treatments. So for me, success is when I can just pencil that in and just go and know that there's no worry in the world. You know, I can just do those things. Success for me is to really looking forward to what I do every day, which is phenomenal. So I'm successful in that already. And most importantly, my success is my client's success, because when my clients succeed, it makes me so incredibly happy. It makes me so, it confirms so much that I've done the right thing, and changing their lives it's what I do. That's the best piece of it all, I have to say.
Yes. I think like being able to feel like you've served, and also that you deserve to be pampered it needs to be, you need to receive it back. And for some people that is to their relationship, just having fun in their relationship. Some people it's, you know, with money, they're using the money. It really, I think, all depends on what you define it as, and then like really allowing that to sink in, like this is what it feels like for me. And like being okay, like this is the way it is, and it's different from my parents, you know, it's different from my friends.
Totally. Like we don't talk about money. Like you need to be careful when you have money and stuff like that.
Right.
It's like, nope. It's a great thing.
Yeah. And sometimes you're gonna hit other people's mindset problems about it, and it has nothing to do with you. It's really
No.
your definition. And I think that's what soul alignment really is about too. And also in your industry, it's like really choosing the self-care, the self-love, like choosing that this is what I need,
Yes.
this is what I want, and I'm going to do it because this is what I want, not because I have to do it or should do it in any form. It's really about honoring yourself and saying, this is what it looks like, this is how I want it to be like, and then making it happen and choosing.
Exactly. And it's such an emotional stressor if you don't do it. Like, so, and I see it over and over with my clients and talking to them. And I think having done all that work myself, I can now really talk to them about this, because nobody else is. If you go to a regular physician's practice, you get 15 minutes, and that's it. You're not going to tell them that you feel misaligned or that, you're just not very happy. Or if you do, you probably get an antidepressant and that's it.
Right.
So, when I talk to them and I really go into this, and talking about guilt a lot of the time, alignment, what it actually is. Maybe I don't use that word depending on how open-minded they are, but just letting them be or giving them permission to tell me what they like, what they don't like, which is often already a huge step for a lot of them. And by that, guiding them into alignment, it makes a huge difference health-wise. Because I think in the end, we all want to be in homeostasis, which is, the kind of, how should I say, the point where our body is at peace. And I like the word peace because that's what it is, being at peace with yourself. It's the most beautiful thing. You can be incredibly happy. It's difficult, but when you're at peace with yourself, your body will follow because your stress levels go down, hormones are going to be back on track, your gut is going to heal, all of those things. So it's a two-way street. You have to work on both things, but getting to that peaceful point is the goal, I think.
Yes, totally. I believe 100%. That's all what it's all about. So what advice would you give to, someone who is just like starting to get into their genius like you have, right? What helped you decide to do the work that you love, right? To create this kind of soul aligned life and business, and become really an expert in what you do. Like, what would you advice you would give to them?
I think they have to keep their reason very much alive in front of them for whatever reason it is that they chose to go that route. So for me, it was my cousin died very unexpectedly, which is tragic enough when you're 23, and it was a huge tragedy in our family. That was the moment, where I realized I only have one life. I'm not happy. I have a responsibility to do with my life what I want to do. That was my moment. It's going to be different for everyone, but everyone has an aha moment. So treasure that, cherish that, keep it close by. And whenever I think of my cousin, I still know that I did the right thing. So whenever I'm in doubt, I sleep and I take a walk and I think of him and I talk to him and I just, whenever I'm reminded of him, I know this is it. I'm on the right track. So that's my number one advice. Keep your reason close by.
Yeah, I love that because we don't really like make sure that that's the reason until like it becomes a reason, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
losing your health, losing everything, right? Losing your money, losing the people you love, the connections that you have, whatever it is, right? Like there's a reason that there's a loss. And then recognizing that this gives you more permission to do what you really want to do instead of saying, yeah, I'm just going to do my 9 to 5 job because I have to pay the bills, right? It never really will ever fulfill you. And so again, like I said, it's about honoring what is like your ability to bring out your expertise, right? I mean, like, you've been studying a lot and all this science stuff and sleep stuff and nutrition stuff, and you're realizing like they're all really related to why you do it now.
Yeah.
And I think like people don't realize that your story and your branding story is so important to tell. Like, your why you do what you do is way more important than any other marketing material that you're putting out there. So just like sharing it, sharing honestly about who you are, why you do what you do. And the big reason, I think, is what you do need to keep it close, for sure.
Yeah.
So any last words? Any last words or advice you have for
any famous last words? Good question. Well, for me, just a little message maybe for anyone who's watching, who's been following you for a long time. Working with Leimomi has been a big part of this. So we've worked together, I don't even remember, when was it, a year ago? A little bit less than a year ago. And it has helped me tremendously. Opening up, understanding what alignment actually is, getting a little bit of help of understanding who you are. And sometimes it's just confirming things, but it's difficult to do it on your own. So don't try to do it on your own. Sometimes, yes. Sometimes you need time where any other advice is just leave it. But sometimes you need help. And then when you know that you do, then get some. And other times you don't need any help, or don't listen to things that aren't you and that try to push you into something that you're not. So, but yes, if you want help in getting to know you, then Leimomi is the person to go to.
Yes, and you're definitely a person to help with any of those sleep issues or nutrition issues. So, like, those are really important just as much as alignment. I mean, we take for granted these basic needs, and this is the same thing with the basic needs of knowing who the heck you are. And we spend our whole entire life like trying to go and chase it and not even sure, when actually really there is an answer. Right?
Yeah.
There is an answer, and it took you, some time to figure that out. It's been, since like last December-ish, I think, when we worked together, and seeing how you transformed. I mean, there was a lot of ups and downs, but like, you really, really became more empowered, right? In your voice and what you stand for and your expertise. And, soul alignment is like one huge aspect of getting out there.
Yeah.
And it's a work in progress. It's not.
Absolutely.
I absolutely know,
I know, because you get my messages. Oh, Leimomi, look, I did this, or I didn't do this, and look what happened. So
and your amazing manifestations.
Yes. Random, very random
things. And because it's honoring what your superpower is. Like, you're very, a power type of superpower. So empowering women and people to go after what they want is what will get, that new direction, that new thing that really helps you to be in alignment, but also to help others to be in alignment also. So is there anything that you want to also share? Maybe a gift, or maybe something that you want to share with my audience that, you would love. And I know that Christine has her website, which I think is ChristineHansen.com. And so if any of you guys really want to work with her, now is that time to, ask for permission. So if you guys are, in that next stage in your life and your business where you're ready to take that next leap, feel free to, of course, contact Christine in that, getting help with, if you're having sleep issues, if you're having nutrition issues. Like, she's the best, amazing expert in it. And I'm sure like she has I know she had like a sleep book, like how to sleep well, and what kind of things will help you to get better sleep. And she has amazing resources and content to help everyone with that. So I hope that you guys all enjoyed this. If you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to me. It's Oh, there you are, Christine.
Ah,
We got cut
sorry.
off for some reason. I was just talking all about you. It's like reach out to her and and just
So sorry.
book,
Yeah.
get her sleep book and your I know you have like an opt-in, right? Like a gift that you want to share with my audience. Is it right on
Yes, I think the number one thing that you can start with is with your mindset. So you can get my opt-in, which is change and calm your mind in 5 days. And that's about, especially when you are someone who's worrying a lot, when you wake up at night, for example, if you're a worrier in general. And you can get that at sleeplikeaboss.com/mindset.
Yes, that's totally opt into that. All right. Well, yeah, let's end here. So again, if you guys want to reach out to Christine, feel free to. She's awesome in what she does, especially breaking it all down, like, you know, how your gut and your body, mind, and spirit is all connected and what needs to shift, because we think that the symptoms of your sleep problems, right, is just something about sleep, but it's actually much deeper mindset and body issues and health issues. There's so many things going on, which is the same like mine, like soul alignment. You think like that's not, you have all these symptoms and all of these, you know, problems, and you wouldn't even think it's a soul alignment problem, you know? So it's so important to find the right expert, someone who really, really is good at what they do. And so that they can really help you find out what it is that really is that problem. And sleep is one of the biggest things that we don't even realize how complicated it is, right? To
Yeah.
get the right help, because like you said, it can be clinical, right? It can be just, you know, like just relearning new nutritional habits or a lifestyle, but there's a multitude of reasons why you are stuck there, you know, and you have to honor that. Yeah. All right. And so until next time, into our next interview series, I'll see you guys all very soon. Aloha.